Security VIP is the official podcast of the security industry, from manufacturers to end users and everything in between. Security VIP is your home for nothing but the truth.
You think you know me?
On this day, I see clear. You're listening to the Security VIP Podcast, hosted by Taylor May, the official podcast of the security industry and home of nothing but the truth. Today on Security VIP, we feature the VP of Sales of Alcatraz AI, Paul Fisher. Get ready for nothing but the truth.
Security VIP Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Security VIP Podcast, the official podcast of the security industry and your home for nothing but the truth. As always, I'm your host, Taylor May. And on today's episode, we're featuring the VP of Sales of Alcatraz AI, Mr. Paul Fisher. Paul, welcome to the podcast today, brother. How are we doing today?
Thank you. Very good. But much bigger build-up than I deserve, so I appreciate it.
Well, dude, I know you just recently joined Alcatraz, and congratulations as the VP of Sales. Awesome role, but you did spend a lot of time at Salient over there with Chris and team. So Tell me, most people know you in this industry, but for the younger generations, obviously I know you. Share your experience, kind of your credibility and what you bring to the industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think this marks year 28 in the industry. Started off back in with ADT. I think everybody back then, you had to cut your teeth with ADT in order to get credibility. And then everybody branched out from there. I did not so much. I spent almost 20 years there. So did everything from started off actually as an installer there, if you can believe that. Texas Heat, that was installation was not my bag of tricks. That lasted about not even a year, I think. And then sales kind of fell into it after that. So I did sales, national account sales, sales management. Last 6 years, I did federal government work for them in their Fed system space. And then decided I'd try my hand at manufacturing. And I think since I've come over here to, was at Salient for 8 years, I did, RSM director and then VP of sales there. And, I said, hey, I'm never going to go back to the integration side of the business. This manufacturing stuff, this is easy.
Hey man, dude, I love the manufacturing side. I got to ask you, dude, how upset was Salient and Chris Miter when you said I'm parting ways, man? What's the backstory?
Oh, it was good. I think they've got a good team over there. I don't think they're going to struggle at all without me. And I made that comment to Chris, and he goes, "Oh, that sounds kind of arrogant. Like, we needed you in the first place." So, no, they've got a good group over there. Still have my stake in the company. So they will continue to do well. I think it's just this was just one of those opportunities that I couldn't pass up. So I was excited to make the move.
100%, man. So Alcatraz, Tina and team, you guys definitely scored big and hit the lotto with Paul Fisher. So I want to give you guys a shout out there. And Paul, I always make this comment too. My dad's been in this industry for 20 plus years. Obviously, you've been in the 20 plus years. You guys have the older generation perspective, but you guys are getting smarter now because you guys are joining cutting edge technologies and emerging technologies. It's this next wave of the industry because we're getting tired of the typical box sales with the VMS and the access control systems, which are still exciting and evolving. But the next wave we talk about is the emerging tech space, and you're part of it now with Alcatraz AI. So talk about Alcatraz and kind of what you guys focus on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, in short, we're an autonomous access control experience, right? You talk about the integration and things that happen. I think what we do at Alcatraz, just giving you kind of a, high level, when I looked at coming over here, I think the biggest thing that I saw was the challenges that are currently experienced in the biometric space. There's a lot of them, right? And people look back on that and say, God, I've used, I've done this, it didn't work. It was overpromised and underdelivered kind of thing. I would tell you with Alcatraz, right, you can forget what you know about biometrics. You can forget the complicated and lengthy enrollment process that typically exists, right? What it takes to get enrolled is hard and lengthy, and we've eliminated that. If you forget about the inaccuracies of authentication over time. So, hey, it works great today. What's it look like 6 months from now? Right. I think we've eliminated that. There's always it's consideration that's an additional barrier to get into an area, right? You've added another layer of security. So I'm expecting that it's going to take more time. And I think we've eliminated that whole throughput process. The installation, the architecture that exists today, a lot of it's very complex. You've got to have the integrations written. We've taken care of that portion of it as well. The GDPR compliance policy issue things, that's not a concern for us. And then finally, from a biometric standpoint, we validate somebody coming in a door, right? But what do you do when the person's being followed by somebody else in? Tailgating to me is one of the biggest challenges that organizations face when we're talking about access control. And most have only solved it with expensive turnstiles, guarding, something along those lines, or some sort of complex, system that really doesn't perform. And I tell you that, in Alcatraz, we've solved that problem as well. So basically, I tell you, we're the answer to all of your biometric challenges.
The answer to all of our biometric challenges. I love it. And you know what? You guys have a really badass product named The Rock. I mean, shit. Yep. What a cool name for a customer to have. Like, you know what? What's your access control? I've got The Rock all over my turnstiles and my doors. I mean, how cool is that to say? But second of all, you talked about some of those advantages with The Rock. Obviously, the tailgating aspect, that's a huge concern around access control. The face authentication, which we're going to talk about here in a second, because I don't want to get that confused with the facial recognition aspect and the GDPR Absolutely. And the PII. We always talk about that, but talk about more of those advantages with the Rock right now. Why customers are putting that in as part of their access control plan.
Yeah, I mean, what I would elaborate on is the kind of, the challenges I mentioned before, and the fact that we fix those. It's how do you fix those? What do we do to help fix those things? So, from an enrollment standpoint, right? If you look at a fingerprint reader, let's say you've got 1,000 employees we want to enroll, they have to go to a guard's desk. The guard has to administer software. They have to roll their finger around, or maybe it's iris, or any of those technologies, even face. You're having to go in and enroll that person, and it requires a process for somebody to be engaged in that process. And I mentioned before, we're autonomous. We can actually do self-enrollment. So you walk up, present your badge. The founders, have Apple backing. One of their things was we want to make it as easy as an Apple ID face exchange, putting that face on that car, on your phone. So you literally present your badge. You look up, you look left, look right, look down, and you get a green check mark, and there's an indication on the reader itself that's telling you what to do, and the fact that you passed that. So total autonomous. I don't have to have anybody engaged in this process. It's literally me walking up. I've had my wife test it. I need to record the video and show it. I don't think she's going to let me post it, but how easy. She's never used access control before in her life. It's like, hey, I want you to do this. She walked up, did that, and she was done. So, it doesn't get any easier than that. And then additionally, you want to enroll 1,000, 2,000 people at a given time. We have the ability to do what's called auto enrollment. So now you set up your readers as auto enrollment readers. They're presenting their badge. They're going in and out of their door. Let's say they go in and out of the door on a daily basis 2 or 3 times. So in the course of maybe 5 or 6 days, every time they walk past the device, it's going to capture a piece of their face. Just like when you do your thumbprint on the old iPhones, right? You have to roll it around. You can see the little screen where you're getting your thumbprint, where you're not, right? Over the course of a week, we could have enrolled 80% of their employees. They turn off auto enrollment. Now the next time they come in, if you're not enrolled, then you would have to go do your auto enrollment, your self enrollment process. But to be able to enroll 1,000 to 1,800, 2,000 people in a week without having them do anything besides just walk through a door, I mean, how simple is that process?
Yeah, creating autonomy, I think, is huge around access control. Making that process even simpler for the end user is key. And you talk about some of the advantages with that. Other solutions out there. Obviously, mobile was hot too in the industry for so long, but if you don't have your cell phone on you, then mobile doesn't really exist, right?
Yep. Can't lose your face.
Yeah, you can't. And that's when I sold facial recognition, I always said the same thing. It's the one thing that's never going to get away. I mean, you can disguise it as much as you want, but if you want to use it as an access control credential, I mean, it's the first thing that you can utilize when you're walking through a door. But talk about the OSDP, because I think that's a hot item right now on access control. Talk about the back end of why OSDP is important with the Rock, because I think it's a huge advantage that you guys have.
Well, it's just the secure data, right? I mean, yep. So from an architecture standpoint, that was one of the things I covered, right? How difficult it is to implement a biometric on your access control platform. So typically it's a separate device, and it connects up to the access control panel, and you have to have a spare port or a license for that access control panel to add it into the device. The way the architecture works for Alcatraz is we're literally a pass-through from the reader. So you have your old banana cable coming out of the reader, going back to the access control panel. It splices right into the Rock, goes from the rock, continues on back to the panel. So all we're capturing is that card number. We're matching it up with the face, and that face information is stored in the rock. So it's not having to go anywhere else. So all we do is pass that information on. So whether it's OSDP or it's Wiegand, we're just communicating that same signal that the reader would have normally sent. We're just stopping it if the face is not recognized. So when you talk about implementation and integration, we don't really have to have an integration with anything, because to the access control panel, we look just like the reader that was there before, whether we were in there or not. So, architecturally, it makes it very easy to implement from a privacy standpoint, right? You're not having to store any names or anything else associated with that person in that rock. So the only thing they've got is a card number, which has no validity to being able to figure out who that person is until you go over into the access control platform. So for us, whether it's OSDP or Wiegand, we don't really care. We're just taking and transmitting that same exact signal right past through us if it's validated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think when we talk about implementation, especially with the integrators, when it comes to cutting edge technologies like rock, they want to make sure it's not disrupting or adding extra energy or time to their install efforts. And I think you guys cut that down tremendously with what you guys have right now with the rocks.
All you need is the PoE plus port to power the thing up. So, and you're typically taking that and streaming the camera that's built into the rock back to your VMS anyways. So that's something that you're going to want to do regardless.
What's the resolution of the camera on those things?
2 megapixel.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
But it's mounted right at 5 feet. So when you're walking up to that door, most cameras are going to be looking at the back of your head or the side of your face at best. We've got an image that's just right there, crystal clear, as the person walks through the door. And that's part of what we're using for the technology for the anti-tailgating, is watching the people come through, where we can validate rapidly people coming through the door, because we're doing the analytics at the edge. That's one other kind of keynote for us, right, is we do a process of one to many, whereas most biometrics are doing one to one. So if you think about presenting a card, normally you present your card. Now that's registering which record the biometrics needs to go look at in its database to be able to validate. So if I present my card and then the authentication happens, I'm waiting. I'm standing at the door. I present, in best case scenario, if it's another facial, it's you're just pulling your face. But if it's an iris or fingerprint, right, you're having to manually do something. But when we do a one-to-many process, we're validating that person before they walk, right when they walk up to the door. So before they get to the door, even they have their card out and ready to present their card, we've already validated that person. So when they hit their card, the door unlocks, just like it would whether the biometric was there or not. So our throughput on those type scenarios is extremely fast, especially when you start talking about turnstiles, having hundreds of people run through them, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's what we've really, our proofs in the pudding with the customers that we've deployed this with.
No, that's good. And talk about the tailgating aspect a little bit more deeper. Does the device just recognize and go off if someone is not authorized to enter a door or a turnstile? How does it alert you when someone's tailgating?
So what we're going to send through to the access control platform, because that's typically in a corporate environment or enterprise environment, they're going to be if they're looking for that type of device, they're going to have somebody monitoring that. Okay. It's going to send a notification to the access control device. And if it's linked up with the VMS, right, then you have the video that's associated with it. You can capture that video. You can go do your policy, implementation with whoever broke the policy. But the tailgating not only is a factor of piggybacking somebody following through, but you can do the cross detection, right? So if you're coming out of the door and somebody goes in, so we're picking up the cross detection, or let's say that the door is propped open, ajar, and how many access control systems do you experience now that don't have a door contact on it? Yep. It's just crazy. So if they prop that door open, we can actually tell an unauthorized user if somebody's coming through that door where the camera is validated, the person is no longer in the field of view, but the path that they followed would have taken them through the door, even if the door wasn't on the hinges. If there's no door there at all, if they pass through and we didn't validate their face, that is also a invalid tailgating type application. So we're capturing kind of all three factors within that tailgating capability.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's simple too, especially when we talk about tailgating and piggybacking. And let's talk about the face authentication piece, because this is confusing with most people that get confused with facial recognition and like I said earlier, the GDPR and the PII. Explain what face authentication is, because I think to me it's just like your iPhone. When you get a new iPhone, you have to one-to-one on your iPhone. But talk about face authentication versus face recognition with the rock.
Absolutely. So I'll start with face recognition, right? So you picture face recognition is using different sources of information to detect someone that we think they might be. So, for example, Facebook uses facial recognition. There, you ever wondered how many times you post something on Facebook and it goes, "Hey, would you like to post your friends?" Or not? What's the term? I'm an old guy, right? Tag them.
Yep.
Tag your friends in here. It's like, well, how do you know my friends are in there? Well, it's comparing that against other resources that they have that they know who these people are. So facial recognition is comparing other data sources, and you're using that like in AnyVision or one of those companies that is you put a database of criminals in there and it can figure out who that is.
List,
a prior list, right? Facial authentication is validating information of a record that you have knowingly entered into a system, right? So now we're putting that in, the person is opting in, they're enrolling in the process. That the validation is against the credential that they've opted in for. So from a privacy standpoint, that's kind of the real big privacy thing that I see between those two type applications.
Any pushback so far with some customers on enrolling their face, or do you have, like, when you actually deploy the software, do you have some employees opt out of doing that or opt in?
Yeah, you can absolutely opt out. So that where that primarily would exist, right, is the turnstile piece where they use single factor authentication. They use a card or a face.
Right.
It's interesting you say that because one of the big deployments we have, one of the comments that we got back was there were several people that opted out, and then once they saw how everybody was walking through, how easy it was, they didn't pull their card out anymore. They're like, I think I'll opt in now.
Yeah, I want to be a part of the club now.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just wrapping your head around the fact that one we're capturing, it's not as the picture of your face, right? But there's nothing in our device that's going to link that to your name or any personal data. It's that card number. So that card number could exist anywhere.
That was always my biggest complaint, dude, when I sold facial recognition, is like when I sold to public sector and public entities, it's like, guys, like, you have cameras all across your building. You don't think you're already being watched and recorded? It doesn't matter if you're on a watch list or not. If you're on a watch list, you're on a watch list for a reason, right? But you're already being recorded. You're already being recorded. Right. But that's good. That's good, because I want to make sure people understand the difference between what you guys do with face authentication versus what's common right now, which you knew last year. Facial recognition was very hot in the industry around those privacy concerns. So I'm glad you answered that for me, Paul. And then I guess you guys are an AI company. So what else is on the roadmap besides the ROC? Any other product development or AI analytics that you guys are looking at?
Right. Typically, in a public setting like this, right, I don't want my competition knowing what I'm doing. We typically reserve that for the security directors, and they ask what's on the roadmap, we can give it. I mean, if anything, I would tell you it's a smaller form factor and higher processing, right? It's just this typical, security things. It's a smaller, faster, and better.
Guys. I tried to get Paul to give us some more news, man. But you know what? Maybe one day.
Hit me up first. Hit me up for a meeting, and we'll discuss all the good roadmap stuff.
All good, brother. Well, let's talk about the go-to-market strategy, because I think my beliefs about emerging technologies right now and go-to-market. But I'd love to hear your typical licensing structure. Pushback on price at all. I know you can't mention key customers, but talk about verticals maybe and kind of the current go-to-market strategy at Alcatraz. No,
absolutely. So, I mean, the company, when we first started looking at go-to-market, is always through the channel. I mean, there's no doubt that we won't ever go as a direct model, which it's I can't believe that some are. It's just amazing to me, but it does happen, right?
Hey man, we're primarily direct at ZeroWise, and I tell you, the profit margin is increasing every single time. So maybe you and Tina should take a look at that. I'm just saying.
And I need those force multipliers. I need those guys out there helping to push the product. But yeah, no, I get it. But right now we have two different flavors, right, for pricing. One is a hardware as a subscription. So you pay a monthly fee, you get the support, you get the software, you get the hardware, everything, warranty, maintenance, all that stuff's included. So we thought and that's based on the architecture of the software that's aggregating the information to be based in the cloud. The other side of it is, and what we found is, the larger the corporation, the less they want to go to the cloud. Even even a company that I can't name that owns the cloud, is steering away from being in the cloud. So we have an on-site system as well. That's just a perpetual license with the hardware. So you're buying everything kind of outright at that point. But I said, I think as everybody's experience, you'll have the Fortune 100 that'll come to you and say, hey, we're only going to buy direct. And we had that enough at Salient, and coming here, we didn't do it at Salient. We kept true to our form, kept with the channel, and I think we will continue to go down that path through here at Alcatraz.
Really? So I'm just giving you some hypotheticals here, Paul, putting you in the hot seat, man, playing devil's advocate. So if a client that's a tier 1 organization, it's like, hey, dude, we want to buy 1,000 rocks, and we don't want to go through a channel and pay the stupid markup that the integrator is going to give me. I just want to buy direct and have direct support and maintenance from you as a manufacturer. You're not going to offer, you can't do that for me, Paul?
You know how hard it is to support an end user directly?
That's why you grow the project management team, you grow the operations team, brother.
No, I hear you. No, I mean, in the current path we're on, no, I wouldn't see that as a foreseeable. I gotta go back to my career of having been asked that by large corporations before, and being able to get through that conversation and get it steered back to the channel. I've always been able to do that, so that's where I would try to keep it for sure.
All right, man. Well, you know what?
It's
a strategy, I guess. If you guys want to continue it, integrators hate me already, dude. So that's fine, because I go direct. But
right. You asked about the vertical stuff, right?
So vertical markets.
I think, right, we're in a land and expand type methodology, right? I mean, the higher security, the tool factor is important, and that's anybody that's got higher, data centers, financial, government, healthcare. All of those have some level of higher security, but I think what we're finding to get in the door with a lot of these companies has been the higher throughput. So the turnstiles, the corporate environments, where we're able to really prove our worth and saying, yes, you can bring 100 people through an hour, a minute, whatever the number is, right? But that's where we've really had some significant successes, is getting that corporate environment done. And then once the people who come into the corporate environment see that that it works well, and they're like, God, I really want this at my facility. I want to be James Bond type, Jason Bourne kind of stuff. That they roll it out, and it gets deployed out into the rest of the field through to any of those entities.
Do you guys have any plans, or maybe you guys already have this in place, but strategic partnerships with guys like Boone Edom and Gunnebo, the key turnstile manufacturers in the space? Do you guys have alignment there with those guys?
Yeah, I mean that is a goal. We've been having conversations. I can't divulge too much on it, but yeah, no, that's I think we're a natural fit for that. It's just more of a matter of getting aesthetically getting something on that device and we've already deployed it in several cases. Yeah, no, absolutely, I would agree that's a channel for us.
It's okay, man. I've had JC Powell on my podcast before from Boone Edom. So JC, make it happen, dude.
Exactly.
What are you taking so slow, man? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
All right, Paul. So goals for 2022, dude. I know you just hopped on board a couple months ago. You're still getting your feet wet, still making sure you're aligned with everything going on as far as the go-to-market. But you have obviously a Rolodex of clients, man, in the industry. So talk about some of those goals and maybe that bounty that the company put on your head for sales objectives, dude.
Right. Yeah. Well, the goal for 2022 is growth. And I think the other one was growth. Yeah. No, I mean, I would like to really get into a vertical market initiative, right? To bring in some leaders in the industry that have that group of credibility within the hospital space, within the financial space. Once they've seen it, and that's one of our biggest things, right? Once somebody's seen it and they've tested it, they love it, and then they're ready to buy. They've compared it against competitors. Don't tell Tina. It almost sells itself, but not really. But if we get, it's really just the at bats. So getting the right team together in that vertical space with some people that have some real credibility and a real Rolodex. I mean, I think that's how we're going to achieve those goals and get that growth going.
Yeah, growth and vertical specialists, man, guys that stay in their lane and know the ins and outs and budget cycles, the procurement strategy, and who to talk to, who's got the purse strings. That's exactly absolutely kind of the technology or the plan for technology like this. So, Paul, last and final question, dude. I always do this for all my manufacturers on my episodes. You are the VP of sales, so you are the boss, man. So what I like to do is ask this question to put you in a hot seat in 60 seconds. Why Alcatraz AI? If I'm a customer, why would I go with Alcatraz AI? Let's hear it.
No, absolutely. So, for the same reasons I made the move to come over here, right? I truly believe that any of the things that I've experienced on the biometric side, the challenges that they've all had. I mentioned we went through all of them at the very beginning, right? But we have come up with, in my opinion, the best solution for fixing those problems in the biometric space. Getting to a full autonomous experience while increasing security is a goal for our customers, and I believe that we underpromise and overdeliver on that goal in what we do.
Transparency sells, baby. I love that, man. Nothing but the truth. It's what this industry is all about, is finding the right professionals who speak the truth and who stand by their word. And if something goes wrong and they fail, they're going to honor that and admit it, right? So I think there's a few people like that. That's why I have people like Paul Fisher on my podcast. And for those need to look more into Alcatraz AI, Paul, how can they get more information about the company and maybe want to speak with you? What's the contact information?
Go to the website. You can schedule demos. You can go to all the literature. It's alcatraz.ai. So we didn't do a .com. We actually did .ai because that's who we are.
Look how clever they are, guys. AI.ai. Look at them. No, Paul, again, man, appreciate the time. Appreciate the knowledge about Alcatraz AI. I'm sure this won't be the last time I have you on my podcast. Maybe we'll have some customers eventually of Alcatraz on my podcast, because I love hosting panel discussions, dude, and hearing from the end user itself about how they use the technology, the advantages it's gotten from them. But brother, again, thank you for the time. As a native Texan, always appreciate my Texans that out on my podcast episode. But for those that have questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at info@securityvip.net. Once again, that email is info@securityvip.net. You can watch this episode of Paul and I on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify if you're on the road. And for all the latest announcements and updates about Security VIP, make sure to hit that follow button on LinkedIn. You guys stay safe out there. Catch you guys on the next one.
Recognize you want to talk.